Cole Hartman had lived most of his life on the open land of the American West, surrounded by long grass, rolling hills, and the quiet sound of wind moving across the fields. He owned one of the largest ranches in the valley, something he had built with years of work, long nights, and the steady help of his late father. People respected him because he was hardworking and fair, but many also saw him as a lonely man. His house was big, his land was wide, and his days were full. Yet there was no one waiting for him when he returned home at night. His neighbors often told him he should find a wife, but every time they said it, he simply smiled and changed the topic. He was not against marriage. He just wanted someone who would truly choose him, not someone who wanted his money or his land. After many years of silence in his home, he finally decided to write to a mail-order matchmaking agency. He asked for someone kind, honest, and strong. He did not ask for beauty or delicate manners. He only wanted someone who could share a life with him. Weeks passed, then a letter came. A woman from a distant Nordic settlement had read his request. Her name was Runa. She said she was tall, hard-working, and unafraid of ranch life. She also wrote that she wanted a home where she would not be judged for her large height, her strong hands, or her quiet nature. Her words were simple, but there was something sincere behind them. Cole read the letter many times before finally writing back with an invitation. When the day came for her arrival, the small town gathered near the station. Curiosity always traveled faster than the train, and everyone wanted to see the woman a rich cowboy had brought across the country. When the train slowed and hissed to a stop, Cole straightened his jacket and tried to stay calm. He expected a tall woman, yes, but nothing prepared him for the moment she stepped down from the train car. Runa was enormous. She stood a full head taller than most men in the crowd. Her shoulders were broad, her arms were strong, and her steps were steady as if she carried the strength of mountains within her. Her long golden hair was braided neatly down her back, and her pale blue eyes scanned the station with nervous caution. She was not ugly, far from it, but her size made her different from anyone the town had ever seen. Some people whispered the moment she appeared. Others took a step back as if unsure what to think. Cole did not move. His eyes widened for a moment, then softened. He saw the way she held her hands close to her body, as if trying to make herself seem smaller. He recognized the fear of judgment in her eyes because he had felt something similar for many years, the feeling of being alone, of being misunderstood. He stepped forward with a calm, warm smile. "You must be Runa," he said gently. Her eyes lifted to meet his, and she nodded slowly. "Yes, you are Mr. Hartman?" "Just call me Cole," he replied. She held his gaze for a moment, and he could see her shoulders slowly relax. He reached to take her suitcase, but she lifted it with one hand, as if it weighed nothing. That made him smile again, not because he was surprised, but because he admired her strength openly without hiding it. The two walked toward his wagon while the town continued whispering behind them. Runa tried not to look, but she heard enough to know. People were not used to someone like her. Cole noticed her uneasiness and decided to distract her with stories about the valley, the ranch, and the people who lived nearby. Runa listened quietly, and he appreciated her calm presence. When they finally reached the ranch, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky with warm orange light. Runa looked around in awe. The land stretched far in every direction. Horses grazed lazily in the distance. A wide wooden house stood tall and strong, with smoke rising gently from the chimney. She felt something in her chest soften. It was peaceful, much quieter than the crowded immigrant settlement she had left behind. Cole guided her inside. The house smelled of fresh wood and warm stew. He had cooked earlier, unsure what she liked, so he prepared a simple meal. She sat at the table cautiously, worried it might not hold her weight. Cole noticed and chuckled kindly. "It's strong," he said. "Built it myself. It'll hold just fine." She let out a relieved breath and sat down. As she tasted the food, she looked surprised. "This is very good," she said. Cole rubbed the back of his neck. I just follow my mother's old recipes. Nothing fancy. It is warm, she replied. Warm food always feels like home. He watched her for a moment and realized she was not as intimidating as people assumed. She was gentle, careful with her words, and almost shy. He found it charming. After dinner, Cole told her he wanted to show her something before she settled in. She agreed and followed him outside into the cool evening air. They walked past the main house, past the stables, and toward a large building at the far end of the ranch. The barn was old, tall, and built with thick planks of wood. But Runa noticed that many beams were cracked, some leaning at odd angles, and parts of the roof sagged dangerously. There was a heavy lock on the door. Cole pulled out a key and paused. "Before I open this," he said slowly, "I want you to know something. I didn't bring you here because I needed a cook or a helper around the house. I can manage those things myself. I asked for someone who could share a life here, someone who could understand this land, this work." Runa listened with quiet curiosity. "But," he continued, "there is also something important I want to finish. Something my father started before he passed. I never had the strength to do it alone." He hesitated. "And when I read your letter, I thought maybe you were someone strong enough, not just in body, but in spirit, to help me make it real." She raised an eyebrow, unsure where this was going. Cole unlocked the door and pushed it open. Runa took one step inside and froze. Inside the barn was a massive wooden structure. Giant gears, heavy beams, and wide blades lay scattered across the floor. It looked like the skeleton of some enormous machine. Dust covered everything, but even through the dirt, she could see how huge it was. What is this?" she whispered. Cole stepped beside her. "A windmill," he said. "My father dreamed of building one big enough to power the whole valley, but he passed before he could finish. I promised him I would complete it one day, but I can't lift half these beams alone. I've tried." Runa stared at the enormous, unfinished structure. She realized why he had chosen her. Not because he wanted to use her, but because he believed she could do something no one else could. Then he said softly, "I want to ask you something, but only if you want to hear it." She nodded. "I want you to help me finish this windmill," he said. "Not as labor. Not as someone being ordered, but as someone who is capable. Someone who can do things no one else can." Also, Runa blinked several times. Her heart pounded. She took a step back in shock. "You want me to build this with you?" she asked. He nodded carefully. Her voice came out louder than she expected. "You want me to what?" Cole did not laugh. He stayed calm, letting her reaction settle. Runa looked again at the massive wooden pieces. She had always been strong. People had always stared at her size, but no one had ever asked her to be strong for a dream. No one had ever given her a purpose that felt meaningful. She did not answer right away. Instead, she placed her hand on one of the giant beams and felt its weight through her fingers. She imagined it standing tall in the wind, turning slowly under the sky. She imagined a valley filled with light because she helped build something important. Cole watched her silently. After a long moment, she turned to him. Her voice was softer now, but steady. "I will think about it tonight," she said. He nodded, respecting her choice completely. "Take all the time you need." Take all the time you need." They walked back to the house, the night sky spreading above them like a dark blanket filled with stars. Runa looked up and breathed deeply, feeling something new growing inside her. Something like hope. Cole opened the door for her and said goodnight. She thanked him quietly and went to the guest room prepared for her. As she lay in the warm bed, she thought about her long journey, the whispers at the station, the heavy barn doors, and the huge unfinished dream inside. No one had ever asked her to do something great. No one had ever believed she could. For the first time in her life, she wondered what it would feel like to be part of something bigger than herself. and somewhere deep inside her heart, an answer slowly began to form. Runa woke before sunrise, her large hands resting gently on the warm quilt Cole had laid out for her. The room was quiet, the air still, and the soft orange morning light peeked through the window. She sat up slowly, stretching her arms until her joints loosened. Her thoughts returned immediately to the barn, to the giant unfinished windmill, to Cole's calm voice asking her something she had never imagined anyone would ask of her. She had gone to sleep thinking of beams that weighed as much as 2 men, gears taller than a wagon wheel, and the challenge of building something so large in a place where she was already a stranger. But the more she thought, the more she felt a strange warmth. Not fear, purpose. A purpose she had been missing for years. When she stepped outside, she found Cole already awake, feeding the horses. His movements were steady and practiced. The horses trusted him, pushing their noses against his palm with affection. He noticed her and gave her a small smile. The kind that didn't ask anything of her, but made her feel welcome. "Good morning," he said. She returned the greeting quietly as she walked closer. The horses lifted their heads to look at her. Some stepped back in surprise, but one curious mare walked right up to her. Runa gently extended her hand. The mare sniffed it, then nudged her shoulder as if accepting her. Cole watched with interest. "She likes you," he said. Runa smiled softly. "Animals are honest. They don't fear without reason." Cole paused for a moment. "People?" He didn't mean it as an apology, but Runa understood the deeper truth in his words. She glanced towards the barn in the distance, its roof catching the early morning light. "I thought about your request," she said finally. Cole stopped moving. "You don't have to." "I want to help," she said, her voice firm but calm. "But I need to understand everything first. What exactly must be done? And why did your father build something so large?" Cole took a slow breath, then nodded. They walked together toward the barn. The cold morning air brushed against Runa's face, waking up every sense. When they reached the heavy doors, Cole pushed them open, and sunlight flooded the interior. The broken beams cast long shadows, and the huge gears looked even larger in the light. Cole stepped inside and pointed at different parts of the windmill. "This was my father's dream," he began. He wanted the valley to have power, light, water pumping, and tools that worked without horses. He believed if we could build this big enough, the whole valley could prosper. Families wouldn't have to leave in winter, crops would grow stronger, and the town could grow. Runa listened closely. "When he passed," Cole continued, "the townspeople tried to help, but the beams were too heavy. Work slowed. People had their own jobs to handle. The windmill became..." He paused and stared at the unfinished structure. Something everyone wanted, but no one had the strength or time to finish. Runa walked closer to the giant central pole, the heart of the windmill. She could see her reflection faintly in the polished wood. She placed her palm against it and felt the cool, solid surface. The structure was beautiful in its own way, even unfinished. "Your father had great vision," she said softly. "He did," Cole replied. "He believed anyone with a strong heart could change a place. I used to think he meant me." He stepped closer to her. "Now, I think he meant someone like you." Runa looked at him, surprised by both his honesty and trust. She wasn't used to gentle words. People often told her to step aside or not break anything by accident. But here someone believed she could build something instead of destroy it. Cole walked to the far corner of the barn and retrieved a folded paper. It was old and creased, but the drawings were still clear. He handed it to her. Runa opened it carefully and saw a detailed sketch of the entire windmill. Each beam, each gear, each part named and labeled. "This is the blueprint," Cole said. "If we work together, we can follow his design." Runa studied the paper for several minutes. It wasn't just a structure. It was a vision. carefully shaped into lines and measurements. The more she looked, the more she felt confidence building inside her. "I can do this," she said at last. "We can do this." Cole smiled, relief and hope shining in his eyes. "Then we start today." They began clearing the barn floor, moving broken planks aside, and sorting beams by size. Cole struggled with some of the heavier pieces, but Runa lifted them with steady ease. She treated each beam respectfully, as if handling something precious. Cole watched with admiration, impressed not just by her strength, but by the careful way she used it. Hours passed, and by midday, the barn looked completely different. The floor was clear, the beams sorted, and the tools arranged neatly. Cole wiped sweat from his forehead. "You work faster than 3 ranch hands," he said. Runa shook her head modestly. "Strength means nothing without direction. You give direction." Cole appreciated her words more than she realized. When they stopped for lunch, he prepared a simple meal on the porch: fresh bread, cheese, and warm soup. Runa ate quietly, watching the wind roll through the field. "Cole," she said slowly, "why did you choose a mail-order bride?" He leaned back slightly, thinking. "I didn't want someone who came for money," he said. "People here know I'm rich. It makes things complicated. I wanted someone who would see the land the way I see it. Someone who could live honestly." Runa listened carefully. "And why me?" she asked. Cole didn't hesitate. "Your letter sounded honest. You wrote that you were strong, but you wanted a place where strength wasn't a burden. That told me more about you than anything else." Runa's eyes softened. "People rarely see strength as a gift." "I do," Cole said quietly. She looked away, not because she disliked the compliment, but because she wasn't used to hearing such words. When they returned to the barn, they started measuring the beams and marking the cuts for the first frame. Cole climbed the ladder to measure the height of the support posts. Runa held the posts steady with one hand, making the ladder perfectly still. "You're saving me a lot of climbing stress," Cole joked. Runa gave a small, rare laugh. It was gentle and warm. As the afternoon faded, the barn filled with the sound of tools, wood shifting, and their steady teamwork. At one point, Cole slipped on a loose nail, and Runa caught him by the arm before he fell. "Careful," she said calmly, holding him steady. He chuckled nervously. "And here, I thought I'd be the one doing the protecting." She raised an eyebrow. "Strength comes in many forms, and you have more than one," he replied. The day ended with the first frame of the windmill standing upright, just the beginning, but clearly real. Runa stepped back to admire their progress. She felt a pride she hadn't felt in years. Cole stood beside her. "My father would have been proud of this." "He would have been proud of you," she said. "And of you," he replied softly. Runa felt her heartbeat quicken, just a little. As the sun set, they walked back to the house. The sky turned pink and gold, and the ranch glowed under the evening light. Everything felt calm, almost peaceful. Before they reached the door, Cole stopped. "Runa," he said, "I want you to know something clearly. You owe me nothing. You don't have to stay because of the windmill or because of the letter. You can leave any time." She looked at him with steady eyes. "I am not staying because I owe you," she said. "I am staying because, for the first time, someone asked me to be more than my size. Someone asked me to build something, not hide from others." Cole felt his chest tighten with respect. "I'm glad you're here," he said honestly. She nodded once, then stepped inside. When she reached her room, she sat on the bed with a tired but satisfied breath. Her muscles ached, but in a good way, like she had done something meaningful. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel out of place. She didn't feel strange or unwanted. She felt valued. Outside, Cole walked to his father's old chair on the porch. He looked toward the barn, where the frame of the windmill stood tall in the fading light. For the first time since his father's passing, He felt hope, real hope, that the dream could be completed. But even more than that, he felt something new growing in his heart, something careful and warm. And neither of them knew it yet, but the valley was watching too. And soon, not everyone would be happy about the giant bride helping the rich cowboy. The next morning, the valley was quiet. But whispers were already moving through the town like dust carried by the wind. People talked about the giant bride at the Hartman Ranch. Some said Cole had brought her to help him finish his father's impossible windmill. Others said it was strange for a woman, especially one of her size, to work on something as big as that. A few even said it was dangerous, unnatural, or foolish. Runa didn't know any of this. She woke early again, her body sore but strong, her mind steady and ready for the day. She tied her long golden hair into a thick braid and stepped outside. The fresh morning breeze greeted her, and she took a deep breath to prepare herself. Cole was already waiting by the barn, oiling the tools. When he saw her approach, he smiled. It wasn't the surprise smile of the first day, it was warmer now, more familiar, as if he had started to rely on her presence. "Ready for another long day?" he asked. Runa nodded. "Yes. The frame must be stronger before we add the blades." Cole laughed softly. "You're already talking like an engineer." She tilted her head slightly. "I only speak what I see." "You see very well," he replied, and handed her a pair of sturdy gloves. They began working together, lifting heavy beams, measuring angles, and aligning the support posts. Runa moved with calm focus, her strength turning difficult tasks into simple ones. Cole worked quickly beside her, guiding the placement, marking lines, and securing bolts. They didn't speak much during the morning hours, but the silence between them was easy, filled with trust. By midday, the first full support frame was standing tall, higher and stronger than anything Runa had ever helped build before. She stepped back and wiped sweat from her forehead, admiring the structure. It wasn't finished yet, but it stood like a proud skeleton reaching for the sky. Cole walked up beside her. "We're making good progress," he said. "We are," she agreed. "But the valley might not like this." Cole frowned. "Why would you say that?" "Because I can feel eyes on us," Runa answered. "Not today. But yesterday, when I walked through the station, people were unsure." Cole sighed. "People fear what they don't understand. But they'll learn." Runa didn't respond. She hoped he was right. They continued working through the afternoon, but something changed in the air. Clouds gathered above the hills. The wind picked up. The barn's doors rattled. A storm was forming far in the distance. Cole looked up. "We should reinforce the support beams before the wind gets stronger." Runa nodded and moved toward the stack of large beams. She lifted one, easily. But as she reached the frame, she saw something that made her freeze. One of the main support beams, one they had installed the previous day, was cracked. Not naturally cracked. Broken. Forced. She leaned closer and saw clear marks on the wood. Someone had hit it multiple times, with a heavy tool. Cole noticed her hesitation and walked over. "What's wrong?" Runa pointed. "This was not like this yesterday." Cole's face hardened. He examined the marks carefully, then stepped back with a cold, sharp breath. Someone did this on purpose. Runa felt a heavy weight settle in her chest. "Why? Why?" Cole looked toward the distant town, his expression dark. "Some people don't want the windmill finished. Some say it will make other ranchers look weak. Others don't like that you're the one helping me." Runa lowered her eyes. She wasn't used to being accepted, but she didn't expect someone to sabotage something so important. It wasn't just about her. It was about Cole's father's dream. "We must fix it," she said firmly. Cole nodded. "But we need to be careful. If the wind rises and the frame collapses..." "I won't let that happen," Runa said. Her voice was calm, but filled with a quiet determination. They worked quickly, removing the damaged piece and reinforcing the surrounding structure. Runa used her strength to hold the new beam in place, while Cole hammered it in. Even as the sky darkened and the wind grew stronger, she didn't waver. But the sabotage had shaken Cole. His calm hands trembled slightly when he reached for tools. "You are worried," she said softly. "I don't want anything to happen to you," Cole replied without thinking. Runa blinked, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to someone worrying for her. "I am strong," she said. "Storm or no storm. That's not what I'm worried about," Cole answered quietly. Runa looked at him for a long moment. She didn't fully understand what he meant, but she could feel something warm in his words, something that went beyond simple concern. As evening approached, the sky grew darker, but the storm held back. The windmill's frame stood tall and steady once again. Cole climbed a ladder to inspect the highest joints. Runa held the ladder firmly, keeping it steady. When he climbed down, he wiped his eyes, tired but relieved. "It's stable," he said. "We managed it." Runa looked at the structure, then at him. She could see pride in his eyes. "You believed I could do this," she said. "I still do," he replied. They walked toward the house, ready to rest. But just as they approached the porch, a group of riders appeared on the hill. Their silhouettes were dark against the fading light. There were 5 of them, moving fast. When they reached the front gate, they slowed and stopped. Cole sighed under his breath. "I knew this would happen sooner or later." Runa stayed calm but alert. She didn't know these men, but she could sense their boldness. The riders dismounted. The leader, a tall rancher with a sharp beard and narrowed eyes, stepped forward. "Evening, Cole," he said, his tone stiff. Cole stepped ahead, standing between the riders and Runa. "Evening, Mark." Mark crossed his arms. "We heard you're trying to finish that giant contraption of your father's." Cole nodded. "Yes. And you brought—" Mark frowned as he looked at Runa. "Her." Runa stared back steadily, her expression unreadable. Mark shook his head and raised his voice. "This is not right, Cole. A woman, especially one like her, shouldn't be lifting heavy beams. It ain't normal." Runa felt Cole stiffen beside her, but she didn't step forward. She wanted to see what he would say. Cole answered calmly. "It's my land. My project. My choice." Another man stepped forward. "People are talking. They say you're putting the valley at risk, that the windmill is too big, too dangerous. Flun. 1-5. I won." Cole kept his voice steady. "It's dangerous because someone tried to break it." Runa noticed a flicker of guilt cross one man's face. Her sharp eyes caught the tiny movement. She silently memorized it. Mark raised his chin. "We're here to tell you to stop. Before someone gets hurt." Runa finally stepped forward, towering over them. Her presence made the men hesitate, but she kept her tone calm and respectful. "I am not here to hurt anyone," she said softly. "I am helping him build something good. Something for all of you." The men shifted uncomfortably. She continued, her voice steady. "Strength is not a threat. It is a gift, and I use it for work, not for fear." The riders looked at each other. They were not expecting her to speak gently, intelligently, or confidently. Her calm words unsettled them more than any force could. Mark stepped back a little. We only came to warn you." Cole nodded. "Warning received. Now go home." The men hesitated again, then mounted their horses one by one and rode off. Cole exhaled slowly. "Thank you," he said to Runa. "You would have done the same for me," she replied. They returned inside. The house felt warm and safe after the tense moment. Runa sat by the window, watching the clouds scatter across the sky. Cole prepared a simple dinner quietly. When they sat down to eat, he looked at her with genuine respect. "You spoke well today," he said. I only spoke the truth, she replied. Cole smiled softly. Still, not many people could have calmed them like that. Runa lowered her gaze. Words can be strong too. I am learning that. Cole nodded. And I'm grateful you're here. Runa felt her heart warm again. She wasn't used to emotional praise. It made her chest feel full. Later that night, when she lay in bed, listening to the gentle wind outside, she realized something important. She had always believed her strength separated her from others. But here, on this ranch, her strength was needed. Perhaps even admired. But she didn't know that bigger challenges were waiting, and the windmill's next steps would test everything she and Cole had built together. Trust, courage, and the quiet bond growing between them. The next morning arrived with a soft, golden sunrise spreading across the valley, painting the ranch in warm light. Runa stood on the porch with a cup of warm tea. Cole had handed her. She looked toward the barn where the windmill's tall frame stood proudly like a wooden giant rising from the earth. The challenges of the last days lingered in her mind, the broken beams, the riders, the whispers in town, but none of those things felt as heavy as they once did. The unfinished windmill was still standing, and so was she. Cole stepped out and joined her, leaning against the railing. His eyes followed hers toward the structure. Hard to believe how far we've come, he said softly. Runa nodded. Today we add the blades. Cole smiled. Are you ready? I am, she replied. Are you? He laughed gently. With you here? Yes. They walked to the barn together. Inside, the sun spilled through the large window, making the wooden pieces glow faintly. The blades were the largest part of the structure, wide panels that would catch the wind and turn the gears. Without them, the windmill was only a tower. With them, it could live. Runa examined each blade carefully, checking for cracks, weak spots, or uneven edges. Cole held the blueprint beside her, pointing out each part they needed to assemble. These will be heavy, he said. She glanced at him with a small smile. Everything here is heavy. He laughed again. Good thing you don't scare easily. We have faced worse, she replied. They worked through the morning, attaching each blade to a large, circular hub. Cole tightened bolts, while Runa held the panels steady. Even with her strength, she moved slowly and carefully, making sure nothing shifted. The windmill wasn't a simple tool. It was a living dream, something that required patience and balance. By noon, all the blades were assembled. They now faced the hardest part, lifting the entire structure onto the central pole. Cole measured the angle and height multiple times, making sure nothing would go wrong. Ready? He asked. Runa placed her hands on the heavy hub. Yes. He stepped back. Take your time. Don't push too fast. Runa nodded. She inhaled deeply, then began to lift. The blades rose slowly, inch by inch. Her muscles tightened, her breath steady. Cole held ropes to guide the rotation as she moved. The entire barn felt silent, except for the sound of wood creaking and her calm exhale. At one point, the wind picked up, and the blades shook slightly. Cole shouted, "Hold steady!" "I am," she said, grounding her feet firmly. With one final push, she raised the hub high enough for Cole to secure the locking bolt. He hammered it in place, with fast, precise strikes. When the bolt clicked into position, Cole stepped back, breathing hard but excited. "It's on," he said. "Runa." She lowered her arms slowly, letting her muscles relax. Sweat trickled down her temples, but her expression was calm and proud. "We did it," she corrected him. Cole smiled widely. "Yes, we did." The hardest part was over, but the day was not finished. They moved outside to test the rotation. Cole pulled a long lever connected to the locking mechanism. When he released it, the hub shifted slightly. The blades turned a small fraction. Runa held her breath. Then, slowly, very slowly, the wind caught the panels, and the blades began to turn. The quiet creaking grew into a rhythmic, smooth rotation. The windmill was moving not fast, but steadily, as if waking from a deep sleep. Cole stood beside her, staring in awe. She watched the giant structure turn peacefully under the afternoon sun. It felt almost unreal. Cole turned toward her, emotion filling his eyes. My father dreamed of this. He wanted this valley to have power. He worked so hard, but he never saw this moment. Runa looked at him gently. You saw it. He nodded slowly. I saw it because of you. She lowered her eyes, feeling warmth rise in her chest. I am glad I could help. You did more than help, Cole said quietly. You brought this dream back to life. They stood side by side, listening to the soft rhythm of the turning blades. The valley below glowed warmly, as if welcoming the new creation. For a while, neither spoke. There was nothing to say. The windmill said everything. By late afternoon, news had already spread. A few families from the town rode toward the ranch, their horses kicking dust into the breeze. Runa expected anger or questions, but when they arrived, their expressions were different this time. Curiosity, surprise, even admiration. A woman named Mrs. Dalton stepped forward. She had always been kind but cautious. She looked up at the windmill with wide eyes. Cole Hartman, she said. Your father would be proud of you. And of her, Cole said, nodding toward Runa. All eyes turned to the tall woman standing quietly beside him. Some people still looked uneasy, but others smiled warmly. A little boy pointed up at her and said, Mama. She's strong like a hero. Runa's cheeks warmed, though she kept her expression calm. Mrs. Dalton approached her gently. Thank you, she said. This windmill will help all of us. Runa nodded respectfully. It was built for the valley. The family stayed for a while, watching the windmill turn and asking questions about how it worked. For the first time, Runa felt the valley beginning to accept her, not because she was large, but because she had done something meaningful. When the sun dipped low and the visitors left, the sky turned orange and pink. Cole walked with Runa toward a quiet field behind the ranch. The windmill turned slowly behind them, casting long shadows across the grass. Runa looked at the horizon. The valley seems different today, she said softly. It is, Cole replied. Because of you. She turned to him. Many people helped, but none of them could have done what you did, he said. You didn't just lift beams. You lifted a dream. And you didn't walk away, even when things got hard. Runa looked at him carefully. She wasn't used to hearing such deep words. She wasn't used to someone seeing her as more than strength. Cole stopped walking. The field was calm, the golden light glowing behind him. He looked at Runa, with sincerity she had never witnessed before. I want to ask you something, he said quietly. She watched him silently, waiting. When you came here, you came as a mail-order bride. But I don't want this to be a decision made on paper or out of duty. I want to know how you feel, not as someone who was sent here, but as someone who chooses. Runa's heart beat a little faster. Cole stepped closer, but not too close. He respected her space. You don't owe me anything, Runa. Not even this windmill. You've given more than anyone could expect. He paused, his voice steady. But if you want to stay, not because of work, not because of the letter, but because you choose to. Runa stared at him, her breath caught. For years, she had been judged for her size, feared for her strength, or treated as an oddity. No one had ever spoken to her with such honesty, not with expectation, but with hope. I never felt I belonged anywhere, she said slowly. But here, on this land, with you, I feel seen. Cole's eyes softened. Runa, I see all of you, not just your strength, Not just your size. I see your heart. Runa. Ard. She inhaled deeply. The windmill turned behind them, its steady rotation like a heartbeat of the valley. The sky glowed warmly, as if waiting for her answer. I choose to stay, she said at last. Not as a mail-order bride. As your partner. As your equal. Cole felt his chest fill with emotion. He didn't step forward quickly, he moved with the same gentle patience he had shown from the beginning. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. Thank you, he said. Runa smiled, soft, rare, and deeply sincere. The first real smile she had shown in a long time. They stood together in the field as the sun set, the windmill turning steadily behind them. It stood as a symbol of everything they had built. Strength, trust, hope, and a new beginning. And for the first time in their lives, both felt they were exactly where they were meant to be.